Welcome to Module 3 of the mandated Abuse and Neglect Prevention, Critical Incidents, and Human Rights Training, which should be taken annually by all staff. In this module, we will cover critical incidents, injuries, and unusual incidents. Training overview. At this time, please be prepared to adjust the volume on your computer to listen to this training if necessary. To enable closed captioning, press the CC button in the bottom left or bottom right of your video display screen. This learning path contains multiple components in the form of videos and quizzes. In order to be marked completed for this training, you must complete all modules and pass all quizzes, in addition to completing the final attestation form and mandatory reporter sign-off. Today's training agenda will be to define a critical incident, to understand what is considered a critical incident, and to define unusual incidents. Before we begin, this is a reminder that you are a mandatory reporter. This is a requirement of your job at DDS and for every person providing support to individuals funded by the department. Regardless of your title, you are a mandatory reporter. That means reporting abuse or neglect 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not just when you are at work. It is not an option to report abuse and neglect if you witness, are informed, or suspect that it is taking place. As a mandatory reporter, your failure to report suspected abuse or neglect can be reported as neglect itself and may lead to progressive discipline. Any and all types of discipline may be considered depending on the severity of the abuse and neglect that was not reported. To elaborate on the Connecticut General Statute 46A-11B, there must be reasonable cause to suspect abuse or neglect is taking place. The reporter should be prepared to explain their reasonable cause to AID Central Intake and any other agencies as necessary as to why they think there was abuse and neglect. What to do if you witness or suspect abuse or neglect. If you see it, suspect it, hear about it, or have reasonable cause to believe abuse and neglect is taking place, the first thing you should do is stop it, intervene, and protect the victim. Make sure the person receives any medical attention and be supportive. Be kind, compassionate, and caring. And it is critically important to report it. On the screen throughout today's training, you will see the phone number for AID, the Abuse Investigation Division. This is the central intake number to call and report abuse or neglect, which we will discuss later in today's training. Defining a critical incident. An incident, as defined below, which requires immediate reporting to the DDS regional director or designee. Death that resulted from an injury. In addition to being reported as a critical incident, death must be reported following the DDS procedure on mortality reporting and reporting deaths of individuals. Severe injury that requires a hospital admission. A visit to the emergency room would not be considered a critical incident. Only hospital admission is a critical incident. In addition, scheduled procedures also are not considered to be critical incidents. Vehicle accident causing a severe injury, missing person who has been reported to the police, a fire caused by an individual that required emergency response, or involving a severe injury. It's important to understand that any fire caused by staff, others, or with a cause unknown would still be reported, but would not be reported using the DDS 255 process. Police arrest of an individual. Individual is a victim of aggravated assault or forcible rape. These incidents should also be reported to AID as abuse physical in nature or sexual abuse and also reported to authorities. In addition, any and all injuries, restraints, and unusual incidents not defined as a critical incident above would be considered a non-critical incident. Defining severe injury. When defining a critical incident, we talk a lot about severe injuries. But what exactly is a severe injury? Per the DDS manual, a severe injury is an injury that requires a hospital admission. A severe injury shall not be reported until a diagnosis is made to ensure that the injury meets this level of severity. These injuries are considered to be reportable as critical incidents. This does also include car accidents that require hospital admission, but does not include just a trip to the emergency room without an admission to the hospital. If a car accident occurs, individuals must be seen by a doctor. However, without the diagnosis of a severe injury or hospital admission, this would not be a critical incident. Defining minor and moderate injury. A minor injury is defined as an injury in which no treatment or minimal possible first aid treatment is required. A moderate injury is defined as an injury in which an assessment or treatment by a nurse or doctor is required. This includes things like broken fingers and broken toes. The nurse on call will be the one to make the determination if the injury is minor or moderate. Moderate injuries are reported on a 255 form and a communication log and should be sent to DDS for data entry. Minor injuries are reported on a minor injury log or communication log, depending on your agency. Minor incidents are not sent to DDS for data entry. They are reviewed by the individual's planning and support team, also known as PST, and direct care support staff. If there is reasonable cause to suspect abuse or neglect and any injury is not documented, a report should be made to AID and a 255 should be completed. Defining death. Death that was the result of an injury such as a fall or a car accident. When talking about a critical incident, if death occurs that was the result of an injury such as a fall or car accident, it would be reported as a critical incident. The DDS manual also states that a death report form must also be completed. If abuse or neglect is suspected in contributing to the death of an individual for whom DDS has either direct or oversight responsibility, AID should be notified immediately. Defining a missing person. An individual whose whereabouts is unknown and whose supervision needs or pattern of behavior is cause for concern for reasons of safety and well-being beyond a time normally expected for that individual as defined by the individual's planning and support team or agency policy, and the individual's absence has been reported to the police as a missing person. A missing person that has been reported to the police is a critical incident. Defining fire as a critical incident. A fire is considered a critical incident when it is caused by the individual and required emergency response or involves a severe injury. Fires caused by staff, any other people, or cause unknown would be reported, but not reported using the DDS 255 process. Unusual incidents. A behavior or a situation specifically listed as an unusual incident is a type that is dangerous or life-threatening to the individual or others, is illegal, requires police involvement, involves fire setting by the individual that does not require an emergency response, requires assessment in a hospital emergency room or department, is a significant, extreme, or worrisome behavior not addressed in the individual's behavior program guidelines. Incidents not reported as accidents without injuries, unplanned emergency room or hospital admissions that are not related to an injury, and other similar types of incidents. Unusual incidents are not always considered to be critical. However, they are important for you to understand and should be reported on the 255. Please note, a behavior that is normally recorded and tracked by approved behavior programs shall not be reported as an unusual incident unless it meets the criteria of dangerous or life-threatening for the individual or others. This training is the property of the Department of Developmental Services and is protected under state and federal law. The material cannot be altered unless permission has been granted by the Connecticut Department of Developmental Services or the third-party author. This information cannot be distributed for profit and should only be used for training purposes. Thank you for your time today. And if you do have any follow-up questions, please direct them to dds.training@ct.gov.